Everyone. My name is Maria Brogan. I am the CEO at NEAR, if we haven't met before, and welcome to our program today with MassHousing. With us is Natasha Boye, and Natasha is a relationship manager at MassHousing. In that role, she works closely with the agency's lender partners, consumers, and nonprofit agencies. She is a member of several realtor associations, including ours, and a participant on some of our committees, and she is also a board member at the North Shore Association. She is a graduate of UMass Boston and Suffolk University Law School. She has years of experience in the mortgage and real estate industries, and some of her previous work include her roles as a processor, loan officer, and real estate legal associate. Welcome, Natasha.
Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you. Thank you. Incredibly grateful to be here with you this morning. Hi, everyone. Again, as Maria said, my name is Natasha. I am a member of MassHousing's business development team, and I am excited to be with you here this morning. I am going to start by asking how many of you are familiar with MassHousing? This can be by using the icon or just raising, well, it's a webinar, so we don't see that, but I just want to get a sense of how many people are familiar with MassHousing. And for the benefit of those that are not, MassHousing is a quasi-state agency. And what that means for the limited purpose of this forum is that we were created by a state legislature. However, we do not derive any direct funding from the state, nor do we use taxpayers' money. We are, for all intents and purposes, an investor. We do sell mortgage revenue bonds on the open market, and we use the proceeds of these to fund our affordable mortgage options for our borrowers. Now, in this morning's presentation, I mentioned I am excited, and I truly mean that. And it's for more than one reason. On a daily basis, I do interact a lot with the lenders or consumers. I don't spend as much time with realtor professionals like yourself as often as I would like to. So I'm incredibly grateful for this opportunity to be in front of you this morning. I believe that you form a very integral part of MassHousing's success, because you are the ones that actually helping and facilitating your buyers and directing them into choosing their mortgage in some instances. So I'm very happy to be with you this morning. I believe real estate professionals and MassHousing, we are a winning partnership. And by the time this presentation is over, I'm hoping that you will be armed with information that will help empower your borrowers, or in your case, your buyers, in achieving their home ownership dream. This is because MassHousing has a lot of things going on. First of all, with our program, it increases the buying power of the buyer because it allows them to qualify for 3 different down payment assistance options that we have at MassHousing. It also increases the peace of mind. I haven't mentioned that yet, but MassHousing, we are also a mortgage insurance company. And I'll talk about that more in details in a future slide. But because we are also a mortgage insurance company, we're able to provide very competitive rates for our consumers. And in some instances, we don't actually even have any borrower paying a mortgage insurance. We actually have what is called the MI Plus, or the Mortgage Protection Plan. This is where, by virtue of having a MassHousing mortgage insurance, should the borrower lose their job, MassHousing steps in and pays up to 6 months of their principal and interest. It's a free benefit, and I hate to put it in these terms, but I always say all you have to do is lose your job, which sounds kind of awful, but there is a protection to losing your job. Another thing is that it increases the confidence of these borrowers. MassHousing is a local investor. I'm not sure how many of you are dealing with servicers that are out of state. One of the worst things you can tell me to do is to call my servicer, because I spend hours on the phone and sometimes no one picks up. And sometimes they don't even give me what I want. Because we are locally placed, consumers have the assurance or the confidence that if there's anything wrong or if they have any questions, it's a quick 617 call away. That's the area code for Boston. And not only that, we do have consumers sometimes come to our physical location, which is at 1 Beacon Street, if they have any questions, if they are facing any difficulties, if they are calling with an issue that happened at your house. Sometimes we are even able to get more information about what has happened to them. Someone will call and say, my house burned down. Well, of course your house burned down. I saw your house burn down on channel 7. So it gives the consumer confidence knowing that we are locally, and if they have any issues, we are there for them. Now, in the pandemic, we have also made sure that we have increased our customer care. We have added more people to it. It's been a little complicated because we are all working at home. We are all working remotely, but we have increased the customer care personnel, and we are taking 400 calls a day. We are taking sometimes 500 calls a day, and it gives us the assurance knowing that we are fulfilling a need. So again, I'm hoping that by the end of this presentation, you have enough information to share with your buyers, and that you become a part of our branding. MassHousing's branding meaning making sure we go all out for the consumer. So MassHousing, we have a series of products, and it's on this page. We have the Workforce Advantage 2.0. It's a new product, and it's the best we have, and you will see why in a minute. We also have the First-Time Home Buyer Conventional, the MassHousing Mortgage Conventional, the Operation Welcome Home Loan, and what I like to call a sensible FHA product. Now, there are some requirements that you need to know about MassHousing. First of all, a borrower cannot own any other property at the time they close on a MassHousing loan. So let's say someone owns in Westford. They plan to retain that property and buy another property using MassHousing. That would not be possible. They cannot own any other property at the time they close. So they own a house in Westford, but they are in the process of selling it and will sell it by the time that they are closing on the MassHousing mortgage, meaning they will be closing on the sale of their Westford property in the morning, and right away they're going to walk into another room and close on the MassHousing loan. That is possible. You can do that. Another requirement is that the property must be owner occupied. You cannot buy the house and say, oh, I'm going to rent it, or it's an investment property. It's intended to be your owner occupied property. The borrower rather must meet an income and underwriting requirement. And I'll go over an overview with this presentation later on. Now, we don't only service first-time home buyers. We do have a program that is actually for repeat borrowers. So we define first-time home buyer as someone that hasn't owned a property within the past 3 years. So with my Westford example, where they're selling their house and buying, because they've owned within the past 3 years, they won't qualify as a first-time home buyer. However, for our first-time home buyer to qualify for the down payment assistance, you have to be a first-time home buyer. So I'm going to start by going over the Workforce Advantage 2.0. It is 2.0 because once upon a time we had the Workforce Advantage and we improved it, and you will see it comes with a lot of bells and whistles, and I'm excited to tell you about it. It was rolled out in October of last year. Now, typically with MassHousing, all our products is based on applicant's income. The only product we have now that is based on household income is this Workforce Advantage 2.0. On a later slide, I will show you what the income looks like, just to give you an example. Now, there is also mortgage insurance. Of course, we know anytime you put in down less than 20% on a loan, there is a mortgage insurance that you have to get. For this particular product and this particular product only, MassHousing is picking up the tab for the single premium. So the borrower is not paying any mortgage insurance at all. For the loan to value, or the combined loan to value, it goes anywhere from 95 to 105, meaning you can tag along any other city's down payment assistance. So if the borrower is buying in Lawrence and they did get the Lawrence down payment assistance, you can combine that in conjunction with MassHousing's down payment assistance program. For the Workforce Advantage 2.0, it's for a single family, it's for two family, and it's for condos also. So one single families, condos, and two families. The borrower must be taking advantage of the down payment assistance. So it cannot be in a case where the borrower is saying, I have my own 20% to put down. I don't need MassHousing's down payment assistance, but I do want this Workforce Advantage 2.0, because also one of the benefit or the great features is that the interest rate for this product is highly discounted. Okay, so maybe they're saying that I'm going to put 20% down, so I don't even need MassHousing to pay for the mortgage insurance. Unfortunately, this product was designed to incorporate mortgage insurance. So if I'm trying to hover my mouse over where it says the LTV has to be 80.01 to 95%. So the minimum required is 5%, but the loan to value has to be at a level where mortgage insurance is required. So we had a situation where a borrower was buying a single family in Lawrence. Their parents was gifting them 20%. That wouldn't work because the 20% means there will be no mortgage insurance. And we insist on paying mortgage insurance, MassHousing that is. We're like, no, we want to pay mortgage insurance. So what they did is, because, and I'll get into what gateway cities are, but because Lawrence is a city that gets them the maximum $25,000, they reduced their down payment assistance, and in the end, they did a 85% loan to value. So they put 15% down, inclusive of our $25,000 that we were giving them, and they moved along and still were able to get the discounted mortgage insurance. The discounted interest rate rather, MassHousing paying the mortgage insurance, and that was a great scenario for both sides. Now, I did mention that the Workforce Advantage is also good for multifamilies, or for 2 units to be specific. On our 2-family or multifamilies with MassHousing, there is a 3% borrower contribution requirement. So because you're buying a multifamily, we want to see them have a little skin in the game. So even where they qualify and will receive this down payment assistance from MassHousing, we still want them to have 3% skin in the game. In a future slide, I have an example and I'll go over it and let you know how that would work. So I mentioned that the Workforce Advantage 2.0 is the only product that utilizes household income. Now, if you're looking on the screen, you would notice that there are columns and it's numbered from 1 to 8. Those are the household sizes. All of our products or our programs, we always break the income down by county. And it's not necessarily the county in which the borrower lives, but the county in which the subject property is going to be located. So you would notice that it starts with Barnstable. Now, I'm going to use Essex County as my example for the obvious reasons. So let's say you have a borrower that is buying in Haverhill. You would just go along the line to the first grade for a single person, and that is $54,900. Now, in the same county of Essex, if they were buying in Lynn, you would notice there are 2 separate grades, right? There's a top grade and the bottom grade. The bottom grade has a different income. So for a borrower buying in Lynn, that income is $67,400. So you want, well, of course, the loan officer will be doing all the hard work, but it's good for you to know the differences so that when you are helping your buyer, you can at least give them an idea of what they can expect once they are talking to the loan officer. Now, when I say we require household income, let's say it's a two-party, 2 people buying a house. Party A makes $50,000, party B makes $50,000. So combined, it is $100,000. They would not qualify because a 2 household size for, let's say, a purchase in Lynn is $77,000, and that $100,000 just would not work. But let's say it's a couple and they have 3 kids, right? The 3 kids now places them in a 5 household size. So then you will go to the corresponding grid and find out that for a 5, well, for 5 household size, buying and land, they can go up to 103,950. So that's how it works for it works for household income under this Workforce Advantage 2.0. Now, on this page, I just want to draw your attention. You will also notice that there are some cities or towns that are bold-faced. These denote gateway cities. And for the benefit of those that are not familiar with what makes gateway cities, it is actually a state designation. It usually goes to describe cities or towns that used to be very vibrant, had a very vibrant economic society, but because things have moved out to skill-centered knowledge sectors, they have lost their luster. So the factories are shut down, manufacturing is down, but the state is trying to pump more resources or make it more attractive for people to move back into these neighborhoods. And so we as a state agency, we buy into that vision. So we are helping folks that are looking to buy into gateway cities more incentives to do that. And the gateway cities is also inclusive of all the sections of Boston. But coming back to this page, all the bold-faced cities or towns are gateway cities. And the significance of them, again, is that they're the ones that can get up to $25,000 in down payment assistance. The non-gateway cities get up to $15,000 in down payment assistance. So again, I just want to wrap up what they get under the Workforce Advantage. They're either going to get 5% of the purchase price or $25,000 if they're buying in a gateway city. If they're buying in a non-gateway city, they get 5% of the purchase price or $15,000. The second mortgage of this 5%, this 15,000 or 25,000 I'm talking about, comes at a 0% interest. So they pay nothing on the second mortgage. The payment is also deferred until the time they decide to either sell their house or refinance. So if, for example, they got $25,000, they do nothing about that $25,000. But if they decide to sell or refinance 10 years from now, then all we will want back is $25,000. This is a way that we're able to recoup some of these funds and put them back into the programs for future borrowers. So this is the map of Massachusetts, and it is showing you where the gateway cities are. I'm hoping this map will be helpful if you are sitting with a buyer and they want to be strategic. Some of them are very sure exactly where they want to live. But if you have a buyer that says, you know what, I really need the $25,000 and I wouldn't mind Haverhill, I wouldn't mind Lawrence, you have it in front of you and you can just pinpoint what the gateway cities are. And even if they want a city that is not a gateway city, you have an idea. I have an idea. I always say, until I got this job, I'm in Boston. I never knew where some of these towns are. So this map is very helpful for me. It points out exactly where the cities are, and I'm able to assist the consumers when I'm talking to them. And again, the gateway cities is inclusive of the sections of Boston. So your Mattapan, Dorchester, East Boston, South Boston, these are all the cities and towns that would get the maximum $25,000. Okay, so now I'm moving to our next product, which is the first-time home buyer conventional. On the left side is the income limit for this product. Unlike the Workforce Advantage 2.0, this product utilizes or it qualifies borrowers based on the applicant. So I mentioned earlier that if you have a borrower that makes $50,000 and the other makes $50,000 for a combined income of $100,000, they won't qualify under the Workforce Advantage 2.0, right? Under the first-time home buyer conventional, we do allow only one applicant to be on it. So I'm going to change my example a little bit. Let's say you have two borrowers. One makes $100,000, the other makes $105,000. So that is a combined income of $205,000. Obviously, $205,000 exceeds $113,300 if they were buying in Essex County. However, what MassHousing would do is we will allow only one person to be on the application. We will disregard the other person's profile. They will not be on the application. We will just look at just one person. So maybe the one that makes $105,000 is the one that wants to go on the application. Of course, part of the analysis is collecting their 3 years tax transcripts, which will definitely show a combined income of 205. We don't worry about that. We're just going to focus on the pay stubs and the W-2s of the person that is intended to be on the application. The only caveat being that the other person that was left off the application cannot be on the mortgage, the note, or the deed. But for some people, the fact that they will qualify for this program, and this program also has a down payment assistance, is good enough for them to leave one person on, because they can always refinance later on and put themselves back together. We are not here to separate people forever, only for a little time. We do that. So the first time home buyer program has a down payment assistance too. It is 5% of the purchase price or $15,000, whichever is less. The term is a little different from the previous one. Under the first time home buyer program, the second loan comes at a 2% interest rate, but is fully amortized for 15 years. The principal and interest on the second loan is also due on a monthly basis. So it's not deferred like it was under the Workforce Advantage. So the way it would work out is that the borrower is going to get 2 loans. The first bigger loan is going to be at 95% loan to value of 95% of the purchase price. There's going to be a smaller 5% of the purchase price. This is the one that is going to be at a 2% interest rate and is fully amortized. And the principal and the interest, if they got the entire $15,000, it would be about $90. Now, I want to stress that they are not always going to get $15,000. $15,000 is the maximum. That equates to a purchase price of $300,000, because 5% of $300,000 is $15,000. I'm about to embarrass myself, but if they were buying the house for $250,000, they're not getting $15,000. They're going to get 5% of the $250,000. That is how this program works. Now, another benefit of the first-time home buyer is that it's applicable for anything from a single family all the way to a 4-unit. Whereas under the Workforce Advantage, it only goes to 2-family. Under the first-time home buyer conventional, it can go up to 4-unit. And regardless of whether you are buying a single family or 4-unit, excuse me, if you qualify for the down payment assistance, you can get a down payment assistance for the 4-unit too. Okay. Now I'm moving to our 3rd tier program. This is the MassHousing Mortgage Conventional. Now, earlier, I mentioned that MassHousing is not only for first-time home buyers, or you can also use it if you have just sold your house and therefore not a first-time home buyer. The MassHousing Mortgage Conventional is actually our standard product. This is what you would use for a borrower who is not a first-time home buyer. But what we have done under this program is that we have carved out an exception, or we have made allowance for a first-time home buyer who is buying in a gateway city, but whose income exceeds the first-time home buyer conventional product. I know it's a lot, it's a mouthful, but let me give you an example. Hopefully that helps. I'm going to stick with Lawrence as my example. We all know that Lawrence is in Essex County. So you have a borrower buying in Lawrence. Under the first-time home buyer product, that income is capped at $113,300. But you have a borrower or a buyer whose income is $130,000, and they do need the down payment assistance. By looking on this page, you will say, well, I'm sorry, Essex County income is $113,300. Your income is $130,000. It exceeds this limit, so unfortunately, you don't qualify. But that is not the case. Because they are buying in Lawrence, and Lawrence is noted as a gateway city, they fit under the exception that we have carved out. So what we would do is, if they were buying in Lawrence, we will allow them to qualify up to $153,900. And now they fit the mold and they can still get the down payment assistance. I told you that we have a focused attention on the gateway cities because of what we are trying to do to revitalize these communities. So we will allow a gateway city purchaser to go up to what is known as 135% of the area median income, or more specifically, 153,900. Now, this is key because part of the analysis when you are buying a multifamily is that we add 75% of the projected rental income into the borrower's income. So it could be that the borrower's true income was actually under 113,300. But because we are now adding 75% of the rental income for a multifamily, it will cause their income to now exceed this 113,300. Now, if that happens, there is still hope because you're buying in a gateway city, they can go up to 153,900 and still qualify for the down payment assistance. The other product I'm going over is the Operation Welcome Home Loan, the one marked in red. Many people call this MassHousing's VA loan. In actuality, it has nothing to do with the VA loan. What we did at MassHousing is we took a look at what VA had to offer, and we kind of tried to close the gap in the areas that they weren't covering. So the Operation Welcome Home Loan is for active duty military members, for reservists, for those in the National Guards, and veterans who have served honorably. They would need either a letter from a commanding officer or the DD-214 is sufficient for them to qualify. Again, it has nothing to do with VA. So regardless of how they've exhausted their benefit from VA or don't qualify under VA, it doesn't matter under the Operation Welcome Home Loan. It's a completely different conventional loan that MassHousing has created for our service members. Now, some of the great features is that they get the 5% or $15,000 down payment assistance. On top of that, they also get $2,500 in closing cost credit. Now, the best feature, I think, is the fact that we do allow for non-spouse co-borrower. If you had a buyer and they were trying to buy with a sibling or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, they wouldn't fit under the VA because they are not married. As a matter of fact, one of the first loans we did under this program was a veteran that was trying to buy a house with their girlfriend. Their girlfriend's parent was going to gift the daughter money for down payment until he realized that going VA means that she could not be on the loan. And he's like, Mike, I love you, but I am not giving you $10,000. I'm not doing that because it benefits my daughter none at all. So the Operation Welcome Loan was great fit for them. They are not married, but both of them were able to be on the application, and it worked wonderfully. So we define non-spouse co-borrower as any other party that is also a first-time home buyer that intends to occupy the property as their primary residence. So you can, as a veteran, you can buy with your girlfriend, you can buy with your mother. We've seen this happen actually. We've had applications where people are buying with their siblings or their parents, even a roommate. If you have a roommate and you figure you guys want to live together and can buy together, you can do that. Because of course the Operation Welcome Home Loan is also available for single families all the way to 4 units. So that is a great product we have for members that are in the military or are veterans. Now, I won't spend too much time. We also have what I call the Sensible FHA product. Unfortunately or fortunately, we do not have the down payment assistance component for this product. And I'm pretty sure the excitement about MassHousing now is the down payment assistance. So in the interest of time, I won't spend too much time on the FHA, but we do have a Sensible FHA product. So now let's go over some examples. Now, these are actual listings that I pulled from Keller Williams and Coco Chanel. Coco early. I've got Chanel on my mind. My husband better hide his credit card. I meant Coco early. These examples were pulled directly from their site. So the first example I'm going to go over is the Workforce Advantage 2.0. It is a condo located in Groton, Massachusetts. It is for 170,400. The way it would work is that there's going to be a 95% loan to value. That amount is 161,880, excuse me. And of course, it's going to be at whatever the prevailing interest rate for the lender is. I chose 3% because that is where our rate is right now. So only for analytical purposes, I chose this 3%, okay, just to make the example. So then there's going to be a down payment assistance second of the 5%. So that amount is 8,520. So combined, the borrower is not coming out of pocket. They are getting the 95% loan to value, and they are getting the 5% required from our down payment assistance, okay? The down payment assistance part, again, is going to be at a 0% interest rate. So this is what their payments will look like. There's going to be a principal and interest of 682. I looked up at the taxes, so that was roughly 227.42. There isn't going to be any mortgage insurance because, again, MassHousing is going to pay the single premium. The single premium on a loan size that we are talking about is $3,108.10. Okay, the home ownership dues is going to be $224. So the borrower's payment total is going to look like this: $1,133.42. If you add up the single premium of $3,108 that MassHousing is paying, and the DPA of $8,420, it is a total of $11,628.10 that the borrower does not have to worry about. Now, in case you're thinking, wow, this is incredible, it does not get any better than that. Well, it does get better than that. Let's go over a second example. This one is a single family in Lowell. The purchase price is $499,000. And I'm sure some of you are like, whoa, I didn't even know MassHousing's down payment assistance will cover something as high as $499 for a single family. Well, we do. So if we were breaking down the loan amount, it's going to be a 95% first, and that amount is $474,905. Again, I'm using an interest rate of 3%. There's going to be the DPA second, and 5% of $499 is $24,995. And that is under the Workforce Advantage 2.0, so there's no payments at all on that one. The principal and interest is going to be $2,002. The taxes are estimated to be $363. Again, under the Workforce Advantage 2.0, the borrower is not paying any mortgage insurance. The premium based on this loan amount is $9,118.18. If you add that up to the DPA second of the $24,995, it is a total of $34,113.18 that is not coming out of pocket for the buyer. Now, let's go over one last one. Again, this one is a true listing. It is a 3-family in Lawrence, Massachusetts. The purchase price is $609. I mentioned earlier that we always require a minimum borrower contribution when they are buying a multifamily. That amount of 3% is $18,270. But the 5% down payment that they need is actually $30,450. So of the $30,450, we want $18,270 to come from the borrower. Now, they would then tag on $12,180 from the 5% down payment assistance loan that they are getting. If this is the scenario, there will be remaining $2,820 because they will have more money than they need for the down payment assistance. So this overage of $2,820 can then be used towards the borrower's closing costs. You do not want to leave money off the table, or they do not want to leave money off the table. So somehow, even if it means reducing the loan to value, they can put this $2,820 back into the transaction. We are not going to allow the borrower to walk away from the closing table with money. But this shows you what it would look like. It's going to be a first of $2,439. The principal and interest on the second is $97. Taxes are estimated to be $363. The mortgage insurance, unlike the Workforce Advantage, under the first-time home buyer conventional, there is mortgage insurance. But the mortgage insurance is very, very competitive because we are, again, our own mortgage insurance company. So that is $192.85. Property insurance, $200. So the total for a 3-unit is going to be $3,291.85. The borrower is getting $15,000 from MassHousing. For the right buyer, buying a multifamily where they are also going to realize some kind of help from the 2 units that they are renting out, this could be a game changer. This could definitely help a borrower who is ready to purchase but does not have the resources to make it happen. So earlier I talked about our employment protection plan, or the MI Plus. I did mention it was by virtue of having a MassHousing mortgage with a mortgage insurance. So even with the Workforce Advantage 2.0, where MassHousing is picking up the tab for the single premium, they will still qualify for this benefit, okay? The benefit is that we will cover up to $2,000 in principal and interest if the borrower loses your job. Before the pandemic, the expectation was that the borrower will make 6 consecutive payments before they can tap into this benefit. But with everything going on, we have waived that 6 months requirement. So basically, if they lose your job, we also want to be able to vet them out as being truly unemployed, and we want to see them having collected at least 4 pay stubs from the Division of Unemployment. We also have created an online application or claim form, so they can just go ahead and upload this information to MassHousing, and we will make the payments on their benefits on their behalf. It is prorated. So let's say they were unemployed for 2 months. Now they have 4 months left for the next 9 years. What about if there were 2 borrowers? Borrowers A was 60% of the total income, and borrowers B's income was 40%. Should borrower A lose your job, we pay 60% up to $2,000. Should borrower B lose your job, we pay 40% up to $2,000. Of course, it's not unheard of these days to find couples losing their job at the same time. In those instances, we pay up to the maximum $2,000. And again, it is for 6 months. And I'm very happy to be able to share that since the pandemic, we have paid over $1 million in benefits for our consumers. Did I mention that this is a free benefit? They do not do anything other than be unemployed. And I feel bad every time I say that, but that is the only prerequisite that they have to do in order to tap into this benefit. And the $1 million is with pride because it tells us that we are satisfying a need that is out there. So if there's no other reason to have a MassHousing mortgage, in my opinion, this right here is a good reason to have a MassHousing mortgage. So I'm going to quickly go over another feature we have at MassHousing. We have the renovation option. Right now, with the lack of inventory and it being a seller's market, this may not be something that a buyer can take advantage of, but it's something that we have available. So we have a feature or an option where we can help a borrower fix up a house that needs TLC, and before we turn it into an end loan. We do allow up to 6 months of the principal and interest to be included in the loan amount. Also 6 months to complete the rehab. Whatever overage that we had collected. Let's say we guesstimated that it would take 6 months to complete the work, but it only took 3 months. We would then allow the borrower, or we would allow the principal and interest, we will allow the overage to be applied towards the borrower's principal and interest on their mortgage. This is all done with MassHousing. They would need to get a couple bids from licensed contractors that are also have insurance. Okay, we also add a 10% contingency. Again, the example is at the bottom of the page. Because of where we are in the market, it may not be hotcakes right now. However, we've had situations where maybe a parent was selling to their child, and for that reason, they were more lenient in terms, or more flexible in terms of waiting for the repairs to be done and for the end loan to close. So it is definitely an option that is available. And so if we have anyone interested, they definitely can look into that on our website, masshousing.com. So I know I have done a lot of talking, but now we want to hear from you. If not now, at some point, we want to know what you think. We also want to know your opinion of what the biggest obstacle is for first-time home buyers. I think we have room that I probably could leave enough room for question and answers. And we also want to know what you would like to see MassHousing offer. One thing that we do that I like is that we are always trying to come up with innovative and creative ways of helping first-time home buyers. In your opinion, who is the segment of the population that you think is still needing, and what are some of the ideas that you think MassHousing can incorporate? Also, if you would like us to present to your office, we are more than happy to do that. We, the business development team, is happy to do that. It's always a good idea to have a loan officer or a lender to collaborate in these presentations, because once you have the buyer who is ready and willing to move on, they would need to have someone help them in terms of the lending side of things. So this is the end of the presentation, but I would like to hear from you. You can either, I don't think anyone is on mute, so you can just ask your questions, but I want to thank you very much for your time today.
So I have a few questions, Natasha, that were brought to me previously by some that couldn't attend and some that were spurred by today's conversation. And I'm just going to, if you could just stop sharing,
Sure.
so that way we can have the screen. There
Great.
we are. So one of the things you had asked about was some of the struggles of our current first-time homebuyers. And I know that a lot of our members have buyers that have student loans. How does that impact their ability to get a MassHousing program approved if they have a lot of outstanding student debt?
So that's a good question, and that is right. I have seen some student loans, and I'm like, whoo, I would not have been able to go to college if I was thinking about it right now. So we, MassHousing, we pretty much sell our loans to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So we abide or adhere to their guidelines. So for student loans, if they have the statement from the student loan company, we use 1% of that. If it's deferred and the student loan company can show what the amount is, we would also use that. So it depends on what it is, but I do understand that sometimes it can be quite a bit. It can be quite a bit, but another way that you can use MassHousing is if someone has student loan, and this may not work for everyone, because I've seen some student loan that I don't even know when they're even going to finish paying it off. But if, for example, they had saved at 10% towards a transaction, and then they realize that, oh, MassHousing has the down payment assistance, they can use the funds they have saved towards the transaction to pay some of the debt down. It may not be the student loan debt, but it may be maybe a car loan. So that will bring down the debt so that the student loan does not weigh so heavily down on their profile.
Now,
If that
do
answers your question.
yes. And do all of the programs require owner occupancy?
Yes. For mass housing, the property has to be owner occupied.
I
Yes.
just wanted to clarify that. And which programs, we talked about a few different ones you had today, which ones are only for single borrowers and which one allows for multiple borrowers?
That's a good question. So all of them allows for single or multiple borrowers. But
Okay.
with the workforce advantage that I mentioned, it's more income driven. So that may be a little stringent in terms of whether you qualify or not, because yeah, the incomes are more stringent. But as I showed in my other examples, for the first-time home buyer conventional, if it's possible to remove one person off and make it qualify, that's fine. However, if the income is not enough, because keep in mind the income is the cap, it's not the floor. So if you have 3 or 4 borrowers and it would take 4 of them to get to this 113,300, that is fine. There's no limit to how many borrowers can be on an application.
And the really great thing is for some of these gateway cities and other areas is that the mass housing program can be coupled with something from like Lawrence Community Works or the Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership down
Exactly.
payment or LDFC available in Lowell.
Yes, yes, yes.
So we all know that buyers, especially first time, that don't have equity coming from another property or don't have a lot of savings and are struggling right now being competitive in the market, that they can combine all of these programs and become a better competitor with the other potential buyers.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Great.
that's the exact idea that we have to. It's not enough, but we're hoping that it will be a way to level the playing fields for some of these first-time home buyers. Yes.
Now, how do our realtors put their buyers in touch with mass housing? Do they call you directly? Do they go to a lender?
That's a good question. So they go through a lender. And so ideally, they have a lender that is signed up with MassHousing. MassHousing is partnered with over 120 lenders, but I must admit, not every lender or lending institution uses MassHousing, but there must be one that is approved to do business with MassHousing. So then they will go to them and make the connection.
Is there
So,
a list of those on Mass Housing's website?
good questions. Yeah. So our consumer site, which of course the realtors can also use, is masshousing.com. If you go to masshousing.com, there is a field for asking you to choose a participating lender, and it will list all our lenders. Now, the great thing we have done actually is that on the very first page, we are listing lenders based on the volume of mass housing loans they write a year. So
Oh,
these are
wow.
lenders that are very well versed with mass housing because they do tons of them. And the great thing though is that we're not that selfish. It's not about the lenders that do tons of mass housing. It's the lenders that is knowledgeable about mass housing and other products, because quite frankly, the borrower might qualify for something else that it's not mass housing, right?
Right.
So you want someone that knows what you're talking about. And the list of that is on our consumer site, which is masshousing.com.
So going a little bit beyond that, if we have realtors that have a lender that they love working with or one that works in a lot of these areas, is there a way that, and we do have a lot of affiliate members who are also lenders, how would we put them in touch with Mass Housing to become part of that list?
What I should definitely do is provide my contact information. We used to have a sheet that has the entire business development team, and I think we changed it a little bit, so I didn't see that in, but I'll make sure to provide my information. But however,
Perfect.
if you still go to masshousing.com, the list of the business development team is still on there. So you can reach out. For example, you can reach out to me and say, Natasha, I work with Salem 5 and I want to be to present something for the office. Would you like to do that? Since March of last year, Mass Housing is working remotely. So unfortunately, it will have to be a virtual class, but we are more than happy to do that for you. The only thing is that we think it's also good to have that component with a lender, because you can have the buyer, but who are they going to go to? And it's actually a good opportunity to leverage this too, because if you are the realtor and you are bringing a loan officer in with your buyer, right? Then hopefully they will also feed you with referral sources, right? Because one of the things that I hear is people want to work with realtors that deal with first-time home buyer. So not necessarily just buyers, but first-time home buyer. So it's a branding opportunity for you too, where you are known to work with first-time home buyers. And I think there's a difference. There are some that, because of where they work, they don't really work with first-time home buyers that much. But I think it's rewarding to be able to get into that segment of the population. And if there's ever faithful buyers, I'm sure you all agree, is the ones that need more from you. Because if you're able to open something that they didn't even think exists, they're going to make sure that they bring their mom and their dad and their sisters and their cousins, because
great referral source.
Exactly. In their opinion, you did something miraculous. So why not share the good news? Yeah.
Yeah. And I know a lot of our members really enjoy working with first-time home buyers because it is such an exciting and rewarding time for them to, you know, that they finally get to closing day and just how incredible that can be.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't see any more questions, but we have recorded this session. I will send it out because it was a lot of information, and I know some of you might want to rewatch it again, and we'll send that out with Natasha's contact information. So if you have follow-up questions that you'd like to ask, or something comes up after the fact, I know that happens to me all the time. I say, oh, I wish I would have asked that you'll have her contact information. You can reach out, and she is wonderful and extraordinarily helpful, and I'm sure can get you answers or know someone that has them.
Absolutely. 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 Thank you again, everyone, for spending some time with me this morning. And I do truly mean this. Call me anytime. I know realtors, you work all the time, even on weekends. If you happen to be dealing with a buyer over the weekend and you have a question, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I am here for you. I mean that sincerely.
Great. Thank you so much, Natasha. We really appreciate your time, and we're working from home too, a lot of us, so we get it. Thank you so much, everyone. And like I said, if you have questions, we'll be sending this program out to you and include Natasha's contact information.
Wonderful. Thank you
so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Maria, I truly appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome. I hope we can do it again.
Yes, soon. Bye-bye, everyone.